We are a couple married for 10 years. We have one son who will soon be in elementary school. My husband is a salesman for a large company, and I'm a freelance designer and work from home. My husband and I met in a college club and got along great. At the time, I thought he was a very caring and gentle person, but that was just an outward appearance. When we got married, my husband started to show his true colors. My husband lived at home when he was a student. He had a father-in-law who worked in the office and a mother-in-law who was a housewife. That's why men are supposed to work outside the home. Women are supposed to stay at home and do housework and raise children and listen to men. He had such an entrenched mindset. When our son was born, he told me to stop working. My husband didn't make a lot of money, so it was troubling. We were going to buy a house in a few years. I decided to just take maternity leave and keep my job too. I was working from home. All the housework and childcare was my job. Even after my son was born, he is my property. I was told that my son and I were to do what my husband said. Even though he makes me do all the parenting, he's very strict with our son. Sometimes he wouldn't let me do things I wanted to do, and rarely played with him or talked to him. My son was afraid of him. Before we got married, he was a very kind and caring boyfriend. I think he was polite to seniors and had a lot of friends. I loved when he was like that. But after we got married, he changed. And so the months go by, and my son is almost in elementary school. My son and I went to pick out his school bag, and went to pick out a suit for the entrance ceremony. We were having a busy time before the school entrance ceremony. My husband had to work and prioritize his own free time. He never once came shopping with us. On the other hand, my in-laws wanted to buy a school bag for our kid, so they took me shopping with them. I got a black and red school bag. Isn't it cool? And I chose a blue tie for my suit. You picked a cool school bag. Put it on so I can take pictures of you. Okay, and take lots of pictures. I'm so excited about elementary school. I wonder if I'll make lots of friends. I heard Oliver will go to the same school as me. We can study and play together. My son is talking happily over dinner. I felt really happy too. The entrance ceremony is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see my son in his best light. I was really looking forward to it. It doesn't matter how selfish my husband is, even if he didn't accompany us when I was shopping for the school year. I knew he would feel the same way. But then one day, a week before the ceremony, my husband said the most ridiculous thing. Next Friday I have a day off. That's the day of our son's entrance ceremony, isn't it? Yes, I'm glad you're off. We can go see him start school together. You don't have to go to my son's entrance ceremony either. You're going to take care of me. What did he mean by that? I had no idea what my husband meant. You're off on the day of our son's entrance ceremony, right? Does that not mean we can both go to our son's entrance ceremony? It's a once-in-a-lifetime event for him. Wouldn't you want to see it with him? I'm tired of working every day. I just need a day off to rest. You've got to prepare my meals. You've got chores to do. You don't have to go to my son's entrance ceremony. You have a problem with what I say? It's not that I'm complaining. I don't know what you mean. As a parent, isn't it normal to want to see your son at moments like this? Why should I have to miss my son's entrance ceremony to take care of you? For the sake of you lazy people, every day I'm out there working my ass off. When I finally get a day off, it's not a huge deal for you to look after me, right? My son has to attend this ceremony, so he has no choice but to go, and you should at least stay home and take care of me. I've never heard of a parent not attending an entrance ceremony. Our son was looking forward to us coming. Do you not understand how sad he will be if we don't go? And if it's work, I work from home too. There are no days off for housework and childcare. Shut up. You don't make a dime. Who do you think is providing for you? If you have a problem with that, you can get a divorce. Then my husband handed me divorce papers with his part filled out. He put it on the dining room table. He slumps back in his chair and glares at me like I'm a big jerk. This is my husband's usual way of getting me to do what he wants. He knows that if he threatens divorce with my small income, I will have no choice but to listen to him. He knows this. Every time we have an argument, my husband will try and make me listen to him. He tries to make me do what he says. Now my husband won't listen to a word I say. I gave up on talking to him and sighed. Okay, I'll make sure to prepare a proper meal for you on the day of the entrance ceremony. You just have to understand, you don't want to divorce me for the sake of our son, do you? The way my husband said that made me extremely angry. But It's not time for me to do that yet either. I had to be patient and listen to my husband. I attended the ceremony by myself. My husband wouldn't get up until around noon on holidays. I prepared breakfast on the dining room table just in case. I sneaked out of the house while my husband was sleeping. I said I would prepare the food, but I never said I wouldn't go to my son's entry ceremony. I'm really glad I went. I was able to see how much he has grown. My son entered the gymnasium in a single file line. He looked bigger and more dignified than usual. At the entrance ceremony, they called out the names of the new students one by one. They all responded loudly and turned towards the parents' seats. I waited for my son's name to be called with nervous anticipation. Alex. Here! My son replied in a voice that seemed to echo through the gymnasium. He looked so proud of himself. I was so happy to see how much my son had grown. When he turned around after answering, he was able to find me in between the other parents. After that, he became happy and was smiling the whole time. I knew I was going to get a reprimand from my husband after this, but I wouldn't trade it for anything to see my son grow up so much. After the ceremony was over and the students were briefed about their school life, we decided to have lunch and then go home. I didn't get home until after 2 p.m. I'm home. Sorry I'm late. Daddy, I'm home. You know, I was able to answer correctly when I was called by the principal. My son started talking happily, but my husband got annoyed and said, "Shut up and be quiet." He yelled at him. My son, who thought would be praised, was so surprised, and he started to cry. Isaac, don't talk like that. Our son did his best and worked hard. You could have listened and praised him. I told you not to go to the entrance ceremony. I said I would prepare breakfast, not that I wouldn't go to the ceremony. Didn't I have breakfast ready? Who's going to take care of me on my day off? It's your job. I haven't even had lunch yet. Looking at the breakfast that was on the dining room table, that was eaten clean and the plates were in the sink. Because the lunch was not ready yet, he was waiting for it without eating anything else. You should at least prepare your own food. You're not a child. You can do that. How could you not attend our son's once-in-a-lifetime entrance ceremony? I can't even imagine such a thing. When I objected, my husband did what he always does. He pulled out the divorce papers. I'm starving. Make me some food already. You guys probably got something to eat anyways. I'm your husband, and you're just going to leave me alone? If you don't like my behavior, you can just divorce me, okay? Here's your divorce papers to make me do your bidding again. I took it and put it in my bag. Come on now, take care of me. You can't raise him by yourself anyway. I still had no recourse against my husband. I had no choice but to accept my husband's selfish and unreasonable arguments. Well, it's difficult for me to raise him on my own. I'll try to think about life with you a little more. Right? You can't support yourself and your son by yourself anyway. I was filled with frustration too, but I had to soothe my crying son. But I'm not ready yet. With that in mind, I had no choice but to stay put and be patient. 3 months after entering school, when my son came home from school, he wanted to try something new. Mom, I wanted to learn to play soccer. We used to have so much fun playing soccer in gym and at lunch. My second grade friend told me. Oliver has been playing soccer since preschool. I wish I could go to soccer too. Soccer? That's great. Let's go to the soccer team's practice sometime. Really? Yay! Originally, when my son started school, I always thought if my son found something he wanted to do, I was willing to help him do it. So I was thinking about that. I was searching for information on nearby youth soccer teams. Soccer is crap. What a waste of money to send my son to learn something. My husband interrupted me from the side. Let him try something new for once. Let him do what he wants to do. After all, it's something he found and wanted to do all by himself. Isn't it our duty as parents to let him do what he wants to do? I asked him. When he starts taking lessons, he'll have to go out on weekends and holidays to practice and play games. That means you'll also be gone on the weekends. Who's going to take care of me during those times? I won't allow you to be gone every week. My wife and kids should only have to do what I tell them to do for a living. And my husband repeats his selfish and unreasonable statements again. Mom, can I play soccer? My son looked at me sadly, and my mind was made up. I understand your point of view, but I will let my son play soccer. I have no obligation to listen to someone who is not my husband. I'll let him do what he wants to do. I'm not your husband? What are you talking about? My husband looked like he didn't know what I was talking about. Did you not understand what I meant? If you don't believe me, shall I show you the proof? I produced a copy of my son's family register and mine from my bag and slammed it down in front of my husband's eyes. My husband's name is not written in the husband's column of that family register. The divorce papers were given to me at our son's entrance ceremony. I filled it out and submitted it on my side.
What? What? What do you mean? Explain yourself.
When you served me the divorce papers on the day of our son's entrance ceremony, I said I'd try to think about our life together a little more. I've thought about it, and this is what I've come up with. I've served you with divorce papers.
Wait a minute. You can't be serious about a divorce. Go to the town hall and get a divorce annulled right now. I want you to take good care of me. I only wrote it to make you change your mind.
Oh, that's what you thought? Every time something happens, you make a fuss about divorce. I've been thinking about how I can continue to live with you. I thought about it and decided to get a divorce.
But what about custody of our son? You haven't even discussed it yet. You and I are no longer married. My son's family register is also on my side.
My son is no longer your son anymore, according to these papers. You said and did things to abuse my son on a daily basis. Did you really think I wouldn't get serious? If we had a real custody battle in the future, I would win for sure. My husband seemed speechless with surprise. My husband puts taking care of himself before our son's entrance into school. I was already out of love with him. I kept the divorce papers that were used to threaten me. Then I filled them out and submitted them to the town hall. Now, I'm no longer married to you. Just because you're the husband and the parent doesn't mean you can treat us like this.
You said you filed the divorce papers. How are you going to make a living after divorcing me? You're a freelancer. You make less than I do. There's no way you could raise one kid.
Well, don't worry about that, because I've actually expanded my freelance work this month. I'm getting paid more because of the expansion. I honestly make more money than you do.
What? No, you didn't tell me about that.
Of course I didn't. I never wanted to tell you.
And what about the house you're going to live in after the divorce? Do you have anywhere else to go besides this house?
Well, I'm divorced. Of course I'm not going to live with you any longer. I've already signed a lease for a new place. As soon as I filed for divorce, I found a place for the two of us. Now I just need to put together a list of everything you've said and done. I'm going to get a lawyer, and I'm going to make you pay alimony and child support. I was wondering when I could finally tell you that we're getting a divorce. He just nodded his head in disbelief.
What the hell? Who's going to take care of me now?
That's what my husband said with his head in his hands. He doesn't think about me or my son for a second. Even in this situation, I couldn't allow him to be so full of himself and treat our son with such disregard. Why don't you hire a housekeeper, or ask your parents to let you stay at their house? My son and I are moving into a new house today. Good luck with the mortgage payments on this house. My husband only cares about taking care of himself after the divorce is finalized. I have no more feelings for this man. I took my son and left that day. This is why I put up with my husband's behavior on the day of the entrance ceremony. I had to expand my business to make enough money for the two of us to eat. After I made sure that I would be able to bring in enough money to feed us both, I filed for divorce and we went to look at houses the same day. After looking at several properties, I found a nice place where my son's elementary school would not have to be changed. And secretly, little by little, we made the preparations to move. I was waiting for the right moment to confront my husband with the fact that we had already divorced. I left home with my son and immediately went to find a lawyer's office to discuss money matters. Since I had recorded a number of my husband's previous words and actions using my phone, the conversation went quite smoothly. I also saved some of the divorce papers that he had thrown away, so they decided to use that as evidence as well. As a result of our discussions through my lawyer, it was decided that my husband would be required to pay alimony and child support. Before he started living with me, he lived at home and had never done a single household chore since we've been married. He's so incapable of doing any of the housework that the house has become a dump. If you can't do it yourself, you can get a housekeeper. He did not have enough money for it and felt that his pride was hurt. With the large alimony and child support payments and a house mortgage that he can't afford on his own, he plans to sell the house and move into a cheaper apartment. By the way, when I told his parents that I divorced him, they ended up scolding him, and they refused to let him go back to his parents' house. My in-laws really loved my son. We still ended up visiting them several times a month. They've been good to my son and to me, and I'm grateful. My son and I both live in a rented house. I work remotely, so I get to see my son grow up close and personal. I enjoy balancing housework and childcare. My son seemed to miss his father at first. He was always afraid of my husband, so he was unable to easily adjust to living with me. My son wanted to play soccer in his elementary school district. We found a soccer club that some of his friends also attended. My son happily attends that soccer club. Even though he's in first grade, they have games for younger children. Every weekday evening, I'm taking them to and from practice every day. On weekends, I'm busy cheering for games. My son seems to enjoy school and soccer. I'm more than happy for my son. I'm glad I left my husband, for my son's sake and my own. I continue to enjoy my son's growth and live a happy life.